Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. I have done a lot of parenting seminars. We've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of parents, and not one of them has ever says, one of my parenting goals is to have my kid get addicted to pornography. And yet, the difference between Christian kids and secular kids who do get addicted to pornography is almost identical. There's a slight advantage, a couple of percent lower for Christian families, but at the same time, being in a Christian family can set it up to make a kid more likely to get into pornography and get addicted to it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Currently, by the age of 11, that's the average age of first exposure to pornography. And by the time a kid is 14 years old, 97% of kids have seen pornography. And I'm not talking Playboy old school, I'm talking pornography. On top of that, 75% of boys actively look for pornography, and 45% of girls are actively looking for and using pornography. So today we're going to look at how Christian families can set up a family structure that actually promotes or pushes their kids into using pornography. And all the stats I use today are going to be from well-researched resources and from people that are reputable like George Barna, Kathy Cook, Nicholas Kardaras, and Leonard Sachs. The heart of the problem is actually shame. What we have is a moral misalignment with Christian kids. And they all know that they're not supposed to be looking at porn, and everybody knows that lust is bad. We've all heard that, and the church is really good at saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. But the truth is, most of them do eventually look at it, and now they're stuck because they know they're not supposed to. Morally, they know that they've transgressed, and at the same time, they now feel a lot of guilt and shame. And what's ironic is Christian kids are twice as likely to identify themselves as a porn addict as a secular kid, even though their behaviors are exactly the same. They're more likely to say, it's like, wow, there is something wrong with me. I am an addict. And that shame, one of the interesting statistics, makes men, I only found data on men, 300%, not 3 times more likely, 300 times more likely to wind up addicted to pornography, and it's proportional to the amount of shame that they feel about looking at pornography. And the problem is that there's nobody helping them. 80% of kids say that there's no one who can help them or nobody who talks to them about pornography. And 50% say that they have never talked to a single person about the problem. So these kids are isolated, they feel ashamed, they don't know who to talk to, and they're not getting any good advice. Now, girls with this problem, they suffer uniquely because society has painted this, as a boy problem. But 50% of girls are now looking for pornography, and pornographers are targeting them. It's the fastest growing demographic for them as a business, and they're tailoring pornography that appeals to young ladies. And this is hard for parents to hear, but I was talking with a guy one time, and pornography just came up and how we talked to our teens about it. And this person told me that he'd asked his daughter if she'd ever seen it or looked at it. And she said that no, I never have. And then he followed it up with this. He says, and I know that she wouldn't lie to me, so I know that's not a problem. The truth of the matter is you are the most likely person to get lied to about a pornography problem than anyone else because your kids care so much about you, they don't want to disappoint you. So we'll talk about how you handle that in the next video. I'm going to do the next video coming up is going to be what to do when your kid sees pornography, but that's going to be for next week. So how do we get here? Being parents, Christian, we want the best for our kids, and yet our kids wind up turning to pornography somehow. How does that happen? And basically there's 3 areas that really promote this where parents make mistakes. And the first one is having a family structure that's highly religious, so there's strict religious rules, and that is authoritarian. And what I mean by authoritarian is that they are more interested in compliance than they are in connection. And so what you have is high control, but you have low warmth and low connection. And this causes a lot of problems because there isn't a lot of two-way communication. Authoritarian parents are like, hey, we're doing it this way. It's my way, the highway. and you're going to do it this way. And the kids really don't have a say. That's authoritarian. And kids in those types of families really will tend, because they can't talk with mom and dad about any problems, and they're powerless because they can't convince mom and dad because mom and dad don't listen, they will turn to pornography as a way to anesthetize those negative feelings of feeling helpless and not having any efficacy in their lives. And that is a huge problem for people. Authoritarian parenting is not good. The opposite of what we want, or the opposite of that, would be authoritative parenting. What that means is that there are high bars, and there is also a high level of connection and commitment one to another. And so, yes, these are the roles. We don't use the phone in the bathroom. You are going to have monitoring on every single device that you have. Mom and dad are going to check your phone. So very high boundaries, but at the same time, there's a deep connection. And when you have that, you then earn your child's voice. So having an authoritarian religious structure pushes kids into porn, but authoritative with high warmth, that's conducive, and those kids fare much better, and their numbers are significantly lower than average. The second factor is a lack of genuine connection. And when I'm talking about connection, I'm not talking about proximity. So we can all sit there and watch a movie and we're all in the same room, but that doesn't necessarily promote connection at all. It's just everybody's kind of tuned out watching the screen. What I'm talking about is where a parent knows what's going on in the heart of their child. They are dialed in and they talk openly and honestly about it. And these parents will share their failures with their kids. And now their kids know that they're talking to a human, not a perfect being. That opens up lines of communication. And so when kids see that mom and dad are vulnerable, then they're willing to be vulnerable. And as the two get closer and closer together, the odds of getting addicted to porn drop drastically. And children who are raised in a family where there's a lot of conflict and there is low connection are at the highest risk for sexual addiction. The third factor is an inability for children to truly express their emotions. This has major implications on addiction to pornography. What happens is in a lot of Christian families, there are emotions that are sinful. Right? You're not supposed to be angry, not supposed to be jealous. But the truth of the matter is we're all human and all of us struggle and have anger and all of us have jealousy and we all have lust. Everybody has these emotions. But in families where the kids are really likely to get into pornography, there is not a culture where kids can come, be transparent, be open about how they're feeling and not have their parents freak out or dismiss the kid's emotions, say, it's not a big deal. Well, it's a big deal to your 6-year-old, and it's a big deal to your 14-year-old. And these kids know that they can be heard, that they're not going to be judged, and that mom and dad are then going to give them wisdom or some type of insight that they don't have, because 14-year-olds don't have a whole lot of world experience, but you do. So you want a place where your kids can feel safe coming to you. And suppressing emotions doesn't get rid of them. They just pile up and it makes it worse. And when that gets worse, they're going to have to turn to something to get away from that. And pornography works awesome because you get a massive flush of chemicals, endorphins, enkephalins, adrenaline, norepinephrine, epinephrine, what else? Dopamine. Dopamine's a big one. And so they feel great for a while. But then all of a sudden, guilt comes in. They don't want to talk to mom and dad because they can't really do that because there's a shame involved. So that drives them deeper and deeper into it. And then in order to get away from it, they go back to pornography. Then they get a little bit of relief. It worked really well. Their body chemicals tell them, hey, do that again. They do it. More shame, more pornography, more chemicals. And they get into this terrible addictive cycle. So this is the recipe for creating a child who's going to struggle with pornography in their lives, whether it's a boy or a girl. High levels of guilt and religious rules, so lots of no's and no yeses with grace. A lack of connection, which is going to lead to a loneliness for kids, and then never teaching them how to actually regulate their emotions and how you actually handle anger and jealousy and bitterness. And so when you have no connection, no trust, high guilt, and the inability to talk to anybody, I don't think there's any kid who's not going to get involved with this somehow, or it'd be exceedingly rare. So, what do we do? Well, as parents, number one, it's connection. If you have high connection with your kids, you have a high ability to speak into their lives, and they're going to listen to you because you've earned it. You have earned the ability to speak in their lives because you care about them, you know how they are, and you know them well. Second, shame. Your children are going to see pornography, almost certainly, and there is a very, very high chance, 75 to 45% chance, boys or girls, that they're going to actively look at it and seek it out. Well, you can't be shocked and you can't shame them, because if you do, they will never come to you again. Because in reality, your child looking to pornography is not the problem. The real problem is something that's underneath it. Pornography is just the answer to the problem. It's what gets them away from the bad feelings. If you're connected with your kid and you get to know them and you don't shame them, you can find out what's really driving them. Is it anxiety? Is it fear? Is it they feel worthless, that they feel like they have no control over their lives? That's what you're trying to get to. The pornography is just the behavior. It's not the driver. And then finally, they have to be able to come to you with their emotions, express them raw, unfiltered, and you need to be able to say, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, and to show a little bit of empathy and compassion. And then maybe, especially if you have good connection, you can point them in a healthier way to think about it, or to let them understand it's like, you know what, there's a better way to deal with this. Point them to scripture, give them examples of people that you know. So that's it. If you have strong connection, you have words that will speak to your kids. If there's zero shame, you're safe to come to. And if you've let them talk to you about their emotions and let them process them, they're now figuring out healthy ways to deal with their emotions. And they're not going to have to turn to something like pornography in order to dull or to anesthetize those negative emotions. Now, next week, in the next video, I'm going to talk about what do you do when your kid looks at pornography. What do you say? What do you not say? What do you do? What you don't do? Those kind of things. So, see you next week.